see Africa going global, making her mark on the world stage. I see Africa's innovation showing.
Hello, everyone. Good. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Welcome to the third IC Liquidity Fund Investor Call for the year. We have a few people joining. So what's going to happen is that we'll just wait for about a minute or two to have some others join as well, and then we can start with the conversation. So we'll plead for everybody on the call to give us a minute or two. We'll wait for a few others to join the call, then and we can start. Once again, welcome to the call, and we will start in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
I see an Africa that's focused. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's global. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see Africa. That's focused on the things that are affecting her people. I see Africa going global, making her mark on the world stage. I see Africa's innovation showing excellence in all she does. I see Africa getting wealthy. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused on the things that are affecting her people. I see Africa going global, making her mark on the world stage. I see Africa's innovation showing excellence in all she does. I see Africa getting wealthy. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's global. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused on the things that are affecting her people. I see Africa going global, making her mark on the world stage. I see Africa's innovation showing excellence in all she does. I see Africa getting wealthy. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused on the things that are affecting her people. I see Africa going global, see Africa's innovation, showing excellence in all she does. I see Africa getting wealthy. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's global. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see
Hello,
an
everyone.
Africa that's full.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to the IC Liquidity Fund Investor Call. My name is Raphael Boy. I'll be your main speaker. Let me say your main host for today. I'll be on the call with Obed Odente. He's a portfolio manager for the IC Liquidity Fund. And so, a few rules to start with. What's going to happen is that we'll be having a conversation about the fund. What are you expecting? What we should expect as investors as well, and then we're also going to provide an opportunity for us to ask our questions. And for most of us on this call, this will be an opportunity for you to interact directly with the portfolio managers for the fund, where you can ask all your questions if there's anything that you'd want to know with respect to the fund as well, and also generally on the markets and what's happening, and also what your expectations should be as well. You have the opportunity to ask your questions today. We would allow for questions. So when it's time for questions, what would happen is that you would raise your hand. So we'll use that function where you would raise your hand, and then when it's your turn, you are allowed to unmute yourself and ask your question. Or if possible, you can type your question in the chat section, on the comment section. You can type your questions there, so we would address your questions as well. So that's just to give you some general direction as to how the call is going to happen. So I'll introduce to you the main portfolio manager for the ICLC Fund, which is Mr. Obed Odente. He's a renowned, seasoned investment expert with ICAM, that is the IC Assets Managers. And so, Sir Obed, if you are with us, you can unmute, and then also let's say hi to the rest of us here on the call.
All right, thank you very much, Raphael, and a very good morning to each one on the call. We are glad to have you all, and it's always a pleasure to have this interaction. I hope today is that to be insightful enough, and whatever questions you have on your mind to be well addressed. So once again, I wish to welcome each one of you on the call. Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you very much, Obed. We also have on the call Madam Dora Yuri, who is the head of wealth management with IC. And so she's also on the call as well. Dora, I really want to say hi and just a few words to all of us here.
Sure. Good morning to everyone on the call. Thank you, Ralph, for the glowing introduction. My name is Dora, as Ralph mentioned. I'm usually your host for these calls, but today Ralph is doing an excellent job for us. I hope we have an insightful call. I'm sure, as usual, Obed will give us a lot to think about. Thank you, and I hope you all enjoy.
Great. Thank you very much, Dora. So, Obed, I think that at this point, we'll delve directly into the conversation. And before we start to look at the fund and the performance and how the fund has been doing over the period. Generally, for someone like me, I would say that the year has been mixed feelings for me. It started off very tough. At some point, it looked as though things are stabilizing. So it hasn't been a smooth trend. And for someone like me, and I'm sure for some other people on the call as well, they might have maybe a similar feeling or might be looking at it differently. For some people that I've spoken to say that the year from the beginning, from January to date, has really been there's been a lot of turbulence. And from where you sit, generally, what are your general comments before we dive into the performance of the fund and all the other details that we want to know? Can you give us some general comments so far from where you sit?
I thank you, Raphael. I think I agree with you and with some of the concerns that those on the call may have. Pretty much, when we look at last year, I think it was quite more challenging, given how there was swift deterioration in our macros, which translated into what we saw on our markets, where there was a complete halt on our markets, be it fixed income or equities. We saw what happened within the foreign exchange space as well, where we saw very significant depreciation of our currency and all of that. When we look at this year, it's not been smooth, but when we compare it to the previous year, realize that there have been some reasonable level of stability, despite the fact that we have seen interest rates most of the time taking an upward trend. So yes, it's been pretty much tough year, and I think what has been very key to us is to see how to make sure we manage the interest rate risk, because if investors who follow steadily realize that most of the investor notes were sharing almost every 2 weeks, clearly indicated some of these interest rate risks, given the fact that inflation was still high and investors were chasing for positive real returns. As we speak, investors are still earning negative real returns. But pretty much soon, the expectation is that given that inflation is taking a downward trend, very soon we'll all see ourselves in the light of positive real returns for our investments in various instruments. So yes, it's quite tough. It seems to be getting slightly better. We hope that the current trends globally and locally will get better and favorable. So all these hopes can come to light. So yes, this is what I have to say for now, Raphael.
Okay, so as a layman, who has some amount of money that I want to invest, I heard you speak about negative real return. Is that something I should be worried about, or there's still some light at the end of the tunnel? Speaking to a layman who have some amount of money I'm investing, and I'm on the call and I hear about negative real return, is that something I should be concerned about?
Okay. Well, this is an instance that I wouldn't say it's a risk on its own, but then this is in comparison to inflation. So when you look at where, assume you are even buying Treasury bill, you're probably if you bought Treasury bill in recent times, you're probably buying it around 30%. Inflation is just about 35%. So in that instance, you realize that the pace at which prices are going up in relation to what you're probably earning on your investments, you see some variance, which is more of a negative variance, which means that probably whatever you're earning on your investments in that space is lower compared to how prices are probably going up. So that is what I mean by the negative real return, just to put it in a layman term. So, but the other side of it is it's still better because still holding your cash and then not earning anything, it's worse. I mean, it's worse that way. So the negative real return is just to give some definition or some term to guide the measure between inflation and what we're probably earning in terms of your investments.
So the takeaway for me is that regardless of the negative real return and inflation and all of that, you are still better off investing your money than keeping it in your bank account.
Correct.
Great. That's good. So I think at this point it would allow you to take us into some detail into the liquidity fund. We'll dive into looking at the fund itself, give us some insight into the fund performance, and then also some expectations from you, and then also moving forward, what's the plan for liquidity fund?
Okay, let me just share this briefly to guide us in our conversation. Okay,
Yeah.
just a moment.
So while Obed is doing that, I'd like to mention that during the conversation, if you have any question or there's something that comes to mind based on what Obed is explaining or the conversation that we are having, you can write it down or put it in the comment section. When it's time for Q&A, we'll read it out to him, and then he would speak to it. So if you're someone like me who would forget your questions, you can write it down or put it in the comment section. We'll take note of it, and then also allow for it to be responded to in the course of the presentation.
Hope you can all see my presentation.
Yes, we can. We can see.
Okay, all right. This is a very brief presentation just to give us some few highlights and a few details. I think more of the rest will come from our conversation. Right. So I'll briefly talk about the fund performance, some key macro highlights, our portfolio overview, and then I'm sure the discussion can continue from there with our questions and answers. Right. So ICE Liquidity Fund, as we all know, is a pure liquidity fund where the main motive is to ensure that liquidity is keen and investors have easy access to their money as and when they need it without much difficulty. And then with the focus that there's enough resilience in the portfolio to ensure that there's some quality investments to ensure that clients are well protected, especially in these fragile times where we all can see that from a macro front, there's a lot that we are struggling with as a country. That said, our annualized return year to date of the fund is currently 19.9%, almost 20%. And when we look at what you're probably doing for the past month or so, it's already in the 20s, which clearly indicates that we are on a steady growth path in terms of the fund's performance. We have seen over 430% growth in terms of our AUM, which clearly indicates how investors are confident in the sort of defensive strategy we have built around the portfolio to make sure that they have some level of comfort with their funds with us. So clearly, yes, treasury bill rates are way above what we are currently seeing. It's around 30%. But like I've always said, this is a fund that has put in a lot of mechanism to minimize the negative impact of interest rate risk that we have seen over the past months. So delivering sustainable returns with well-managed interest rate risk, even at this level, is justifiable. And with this, I even refer to those of us who invest in treasury bills to realize that at any point, assuming you bought a treasury bill about maybe 7 months ago, and you bought it around, let's say, 20%, and you want to, for some reason, want to disinvest, you go to the bank, they will say, okay, they have to discount it. And by the time they finish discounting it, you were seeing 20%, but your return probably be like 5%, right? So for your investment manager to be able to build in all these mechanisms and deliver you about 19 or 20% with much minimal risk than probably holding one issuer paper as an investor, I think it's well aligned. Well, So we also briefly look at within the macro space some of the happenings over the past 5 months. In July, we realized that inflation peaked around 43.1%. Just after it fell so steep in March and April. We realized in July it peaked, and right from there we have seen inflation take a serious downward trajectory. In the face of all of this, we have seen the MPC at some point hike the MPC rate by 50 basis points. And right from there, we have not seen any further increase in the monetary policy rate, given the fact that inflation had taken a downward trajectory. In August, we realized that DDE2, the second phase of the domestic debt exchange, which was mainly focused on pension funds. Right after that, because interest coupon payments were due, we saw the market flush with liquidity from coupon that were paid on the new bonds. In the midst of all this, we didn't really see interest rates react, i.e., more money is chasing fewer investments, mainly because already inflation was high and people were aggressively chasing for higher yields. So there was much less negotiating power from governments or even BOG to try to drive down interest rates on both OMO bills and then treasury bills. So in spite of all of that, we still saw interest rates on OMO bills and then treasury bills trend upwards. In September, second quarter 23 GDP numbers shown some growth, especially in the area of agriculture and services. But we can all bear the fact that IMF-related fiscal austerity measures still remains a threat to our growth trajectory. In October, we realized a service level agreement with respect to the first review of the IMF program concerning and with key focus on the debt restructuring negotiations, which has taken a center stage as the government expects the release of the second tranche of a 600 million USD. Then November, the Ministry of Finance read the budget, which projected deficits of 60 billion and an interest saving of about 4.8 billion, chalked from our DDE so far. And the main focus for financing these budget deficits is the treasury bill market. So by and large, these are pretty much key events that that we have realized within the macro space, which is worth taking note of. Now, on the portfolio, in terms of our strategy, I think short-term repos has been the main focus. And this is on the back of our defensive strategy. Like I did said earlier, the number of risk that we have built into the risk measures that we have built into the portfolio to ensure that there is enough cover for everyone with respect to one, interest rate risks that I have said, where repos play a key part in it because repos are in such a way that the buy and then the sell of the investment prices are already predetermined. So nothing will impact any fluctuation in terms of the price, which is good for investors like IC liquidity clients because in the past 2, 3, 4, 5 months where interest rates were going up, it's pretty much reasonable to make sure that you hedge yourself against the rising interest rates, which pretty much leads to decline in value of investments that are marked to market, like the IC liquidity fund. There also the issuer risk, and diversification is one thing that is key. Around a structure like repos, there's a lot of diversification built in there because despite the fact that you are doing a repo with a bank, you have some level of treasury in there. You have some level of pricing that is fixed, that cannot move. So yes, that's a structure that is quite resilient enough to make sure that our capital that we have invested is well preserved and well enhanced. And again, liquidity is one thing that is key, where we are able to, we have flexibility around the repo tenors to be able to match your demands as and when they come in. So these are all things that we believe are pretty much good for you as investors. And once again, whatever strategy we try to put in place is something that is mainly client focused, that will address the needs of the clients. Yeah. Comparing this to variable again, it's more of like exposing yourself to just one side of the opportunity, and it's wide risk or specific risk. But then once you are ICLF, your risk is well diversified, and then at least when you go to bed, you have some level of comforts because you know those delivering on this are putting the right measures, and then you're not just chasing yields, because we have all learned from the fact that chasing yields is not the way to go. And I believe this is a culture that we must all embrace going forward, where we begin to reward people that manage our funds, that make sure that risk is well managed, and not just focusing and chasing yields that in the long run, in the medium term, may have us go through situations or circumstances that may not be pleasant. We also have some exposure to a bit of fixed deposit with high quality issuers, banks, and pretty much very little, a bit of exposure to treasury bills, just about 10% of the portfolio. Now, in terms of the repo evolution, we realized that Q2 into Q3, we actually increased that aggressively, just because we want to continue to build much more resilience and some strength into the portfolio and make sure that most of these risks that I've mentioned are well managed within the portfolio. All right, so going forward, I'm sure these are things that we'll continue to do until we come back to you and let you know where the macro indicators are heading and how much comfort it should give you and how aggressive we quickly have to become to build up and improve the returns than probably we are seeing today. On this note, I'll end the presentation. This is just to give you some brief highlights on the fund. I'm sure that the rest of the conversation, the outlook and all of that will follow as a result of our questions and answers. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Obed, for that insightful presentation. It was great. And I think that for most of us on this call, I can see a lot of thumbs up from the participants. It tells that clearly we've enjoyed the conversation. We like the view into what's happening. To ask, we have a few questions. So if you look at the strategy and the fact that we've gone heavily on repos, considering what it looked like in Q3, Q2, then in Q3, do I assume that for what you have as today, is that what it looks like for Q4? Or since I want you to explain to us the today on that slide.
Okay, very well. So as it stands now, that's how the portfolio looks like. And as you have asked, getting to the end of Q4, we don't expect any significant shift because the strategy and the philosophy underlining why we are heavily skewed towards repos hasn't changed. We wouldn't say that things have normalized, where everything has reverted to the normal course pre-COVID and all of that. I think we are still on our IMF program. There are still a lot of lessons that we are learning. In the case of Zambia and Co, there seem to be some positive developments, but that alone is not enough, because when you look at what is happening within the global space, geopolitics and all of that, it doesn't mean that we need to let our guards down. We still need to make sure that we are building enough resilience, and that liquidity is keen and quality investment is keen. So until we begin to see some positive signals, we wouldn't want to let our guards down. So for now, up to the end of the year, like end of Q4, I'm not sure we'll see something very different for now. Thank you.
Okay. So we are saying that look, the strategy is going to continue to be the same down to the end of the year, where we are
Correct.
going to continue to be heavy on repos and then diversify with the rest of the assets as you've shown in the slides.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other question as well I wanted to ask and is that so for the key happenings in the macro space as you explained to us, and also the fact that coupled with the fact that we are not going to say that things have reverted to the normal, and so we still need to continue to be on our guard. What should we expect in the coming quarter based on these key macro happenings and the fact that, as you explained, things have not really changed that much, and so considering what's happening now and how the economy seems to look like today, should we expect any new strategy, or is the fund trying to think ahead and look at how we're able to position ourselves in the coming quarter, or we expect to continue on the path that we are on from now till, let's say, the nearest possible future, let's say in the next quarter or the next 2 quarters coming up?
Okay, thank you very much, Raphael. So in the coming quarter, we're likely to see the dynamics change briefly, mainly because of a few things that we are looking forward to. I think currently what we have been seeing is some downward trend in the inflation numbers. We've been seeing some downward trend slightly on interest rate as well. So going into first quarter of next year, probably expect to see some reasonable decline in interest rates. We expect the fixed income market probably to begin to see some reasonable, slightly level of improved in liquidity on the market as well. So clearly, we may consider probably readjusting the strategy on the back of how well the IMF developments and then conversations around the debt restructuring will fare. So what I basically meant to say is we may probably begin to get a little bit aggressive, where conversations and then agreement with external creditors on our Euro bonds and other foreign debts looks quite positive. Because once all of these do not go well, despite the few indications we are seeing on interest rates improving, and also the hopes we are having around currency as a result of the 600 million that we're expecting, cocoa loan coming through, and also I think currently the Bank of Ghana has unified the cash reserve requirements for holding for dollar and then for foreign currency and then cedi to a single denomination of cedi, which means that could also improve the liquidity, the foreign exchange liquidity on the market. But these are more of probably short-term things. And I think key to us will be how the IMF conversations and then the restructuring of our debts will fare. So once all this points to the positive, we're likely to see some gradual shift in terms of the strategy we are currently having, where we'll probably become much more aggressive to play on the market and become active as we used to be to deliver much more higher or better returns for our clients. So, I mean, given the point that I've mentioned, we're likely to see some changes happen in the first quarter. But like we do before all of that, we'll begin to give our investors some clues with our usual PM notes that we send almost every 2 weeks. And that could give them at least some view on how things are going and how we are planning to make some changes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Obed. I think that Obed has given us some very great insights. At this point, what we'll do is that we'll allow for the rest of us on this call as well, if you have any questions. So you have the opportunity, as we promised earlier, to interact directly with the portfolio manager as well and his team on this call. And so there are a few hands that have been raised. We'll start with Nicholas, then we go to Lydia, then we'll look at then Annaba, Annaba. So we'll start first with Nicholas. I think Nicholas is first. So what we'll do is that if it's your turn to speak, you would unmute yourself, ask your question, then you mute yourself back for the portfolio manager to speak and then to address your concerns. So we'll start with Nicholas. So Nicholas, you can unmute your mic and then ask your question.
Okay. Good morning,
Good morning.
everyone. And well, the wonderful presentation by the team. I had some few inquiries. I think I posted a question. I wanted to find out about the macroeconomic strategies by ICS to mitigate the effects of IMF policies. We are entering also into an election year. So issues of inflation, issues of economic growth, all those dynamics. And I think our portfolio manager made something mention about interest rates declining. So I wanted to find out what are the strategies to mitigate that, because some of our funds is in fixed deposits. Is there any hedging strategies available in all those dynamics? So that is what I wanted to find out.
Okay, Nicholas, thank you very much for your question. I think that I'll allow Lydia to also ask her question, and then Obed will combine the two so we can say some stuff. So Lydia, if you can unmute yourself and then ask your question as well. Hello, Lydia Oman. If you can unmute. Probably he's not ready. So let's move to Stephen Tyria Annabas. Stephen, if you can unmute and then ask your question. Obed responds to both. Stephen. Okay, so I think Stephen is also not ready. Let's move to NS Jimfy.
Okay, hello.
Okay, Stephen. Yeah.
Hello.
We can hear you. So you can go ahead and ask your question.
I want to ask that when you deposit in your account, how many months or how many years will your fund mature for withdrawal?
Okay.
Yeah, that's my question.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. So for Stephen's question, I can answer that directly. So when you make a deposit into the IC liquidity fund, you are not restricted to how many days, months, or years for your fund to mature before you can have access to it. The good thing is that when you invest your money, when you deposit into the fund, your money is being invested, and we also report to you directly to our online portal on how much money you've invested and how well your fund is doing in terms of your total deposits plus your total return and as at every period. And you can withdraw the money anytime you want to withdraw the money. You can make a withdrawal request, and the money will be transferred directly into your bank account into your Momo. However, we advise that you allow the fund to grow, because the longer your money stays into this in the scheme, the longer the money is being invested, and then the more returns you make over the period. However, if you deposit money today and you want to withdraw it tomorrow, or I deposit money this week and I come and withdraw it next week, I have access to my money, but you realize that the money wouldn't have stayed in the fund long enough to make you some good returns that you would appreciate. So that's how it works. There's no minimum period for which you have to invest your money. after which your money would mature for you to have access to it. That's not how it works.
Please,
So I think I've answered.
hello.
Okay, sure. You can go ahead, please.
On my account, I try to put my Momo number like withdrawal details, but I have realized that is it 1.5 week now? It is still saying it's on internal. Is it internal verification or something? So I have to wait. So I want to know how many weeks am I supposed to wait when I add my withdrawal details?
Okay, so what that means is that currently your account is probably being verified. That process is supposed to take not more than 48 hours, not more than 2 days. And so what would happen is that kindly put your details in the chat section. We'll get in touch with you directly to understand what your specific issues are, and then we can help you resolve it.
Thank you.
Good. So we'll go ahead. Obed, will go ahead. Obed, if you can help us with the question from, I think that question was from, let me see who asked the question. The earlier question that we had as well.
Okay. So I will address that. Okay. I think the question came around some of the things on IMF, elections, and then interest rates likely to decline. Well, so I think the concern on IMF, IMF coming on board is in a way to help to bring some sanity within our macro space. And one of the key things is to make sure that spending is well managed. And then something like our central bank financing of the government and all of that is continuously put in check and all of that. So these are all developments that are expected to rather strengthen our macros. And with these developments, we are likely to see that support our quest to see inflation go down or to become much more reasonable in terms of where we think it's good for an economy like Ghana. So all these developments are not necessarily to put our investments into any form of risk. But I think the bit that you mentioned on elections is something that it's well factored into what we are looking at doing next year, which is the reason why if you paid attention to what I said earlier, that the focus, even if everything seemed to be good, will be a gradual shift, probably to get a bit aggressive and not to go all out aggressive, because like you said, election is coming. It comes with different forms of risk, despite the fact that we know that over the years, election year have been characterized with some sort of spending challenges, because we've mostly seen spending skyrocket from the government side. This we'll see coming through well managed because of IMF, but the other form of risk that could surface, and that is why for an election year, which presents risk that I cannot even predict from here, it's still better to make sure that the defensiveness within the portfolio is still focused on, just to make sure that anything that could throw at us, or any form of risk that could emerge as a result of the election or whatever it is, clients will still have some comfort. So I think your question rightly asked sort of strengthens our position, where we become much more gradual in terms of becoming aggressive, even into next year, because it's next year is a space that we need to carefully make sure that we put in the right measures, the right strategies, to make sure that anything that throws at us, we are ready to make sure that our clients are still comfortable. They still have confidence for the level of liquidity they are enjoying on the fund, where they can easily access their funds and all of that. So yes, on the issue of declining interest rates, you're asking, that you have some investments. Yes, maybe the least I can tell you is these are more macro developments, and you have very little control over it. It's more or less what strategy you put in place to make sure that if you want to lock in whatever rate you have for a long time, you want to improve the tenor or increase the tenor on whatever investments you are doing. But I'm not by this advising you on what you should do for a fixed deposit. I'm only giving you some ideas to maybe, as the interest rates are declining, how you probably want to continue to enjoy the high yield you are getting now. But this is not by any way giving you any advice. For any advice on any other instrument aside ICLF, I think our doors are widely open. We can engage, and then we'll see how you can position yourself in any other instruments to benefit going forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Obed. So move on to allow for Mr. Ernest Jemfi, to ask his question. So Mr. Ernest Jemfi, you can unmute and ask your question. After Jeremiah will also ask, then we move to Sedem. I would want to assume that these are the only individuals with questions left. If you have any, you can kindly raise your hand, add it to the list, so we are able to manage time. So would Mr. Ernest, you can unmute and then ask your question.
Okay, Raphael, thank you. I just wanted to find out how long does it take for a placement on the live trade to take effect? And two, from Obed's presentation, he said, as an investor looking at the situation at the moment, the best way to go is repo. And can you give me a specific amount for the repo and how the procedures, I should say? Thank you.
So are you asking investing repos for yourself as an individual?
Yes, as an individual. And also on the live trade, how long does it take effect after you've placed an order for an equity?
Okay, sure. Thank you very much for that. So I'll allow for Jeremiah to also ask his question, and then we would address your question. So you have two questions. You're asking one, how long it takes for you to place an equity order for it to be for the transaction to be successful, and then two, you want to invest in repos as an individual. What are the procedures? So Jeremiah, please, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Raphael, for your opportunity. My question is, in case you want to purchase a fixed income security, let's say you want to go in for bonds, but you realize the time you wanted to buy, and you check the date the bond expired. Let's say you want to buy the bond this month, but you realize it expired somewhere March this year. So how do you purchase a new one, or it will automatically, some will come for you to purchase at an other time, provided you are ready to go in for it? Thank you.
Okay, so those are your only questions. Okay, good. Can you unmute yourself? So Dora would come in and answer the questions around trade life for transactions around trade life, so for equities, for the fixed income, as Jeremiah mentioned, and then Obed will speak to the repos bits from Mr. Ernest.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. So with regards to the trade live questions on equity specifically by Mr. Sintin, equities, as you know, in Ghana, we have maybe about just under 40 companies on the Ghana Stock Exchange. They behave differently. Some companies trade almost every day, others don't trade in a month. So depending on what you're trying to buy or sell, we have to put it on the market. We have to basically tell everybody on the GSE that we have a customer trying to buy or sell company X this amount. Somebody has to want to do the opposite side in order for it to trade. So I think, Mr. Sintin, what we will do is we will give you a call after this meeting to understand exactly which order it is that you're speaking about, and then we can then better guide you. And then with regards to Jeremiah's question on fixed income, at this time, government bonds are not trading particularly well, meaning that if you want to buy, you probably can buy, but if you want to sell, it might be slightly difficult to sell. And that's because many people have shifted their focus to treasury bills, and so they are not so interested in government bonds after DDE. So what you would probably be able to do, especially as an individual investor, is to buy T-bills. IC Securities is able to assist you buy T-bills, and they have various tenors between 3 months to 1 year. So essentially 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year. And for those, you will have to wait till the maturity, ideally, to receive the full value at the end. And so if that seems to match with your what you're looking for, we're happy to help you. There are some additional documents you may need to set you up to be a bond, a participant in the bond market, and then you would be able to do so. And there are T-bill issuances every week on Fridays. So every week there's a new opportunity to buy a T-bill, which will mature either 3 months, 6 months, or perhaps 1 year from that week. So I hope that also answers your questions. Please feel free to contact us when you're ready, and we'll help you move forward. Thanks for the opportunity, Ralph.
Okay, thank you very much, Dora. Obed.
Okay. So on the question on the repos,
Yes.
well, so repo is something that is more or less like you're placing a fund with a bank, but it comes with some collaterals to enhance the security of the investment. So in this instance, you have a CSD, which is if you are having this placement or this repurchase agreement with any security that is held in the CSD. So you need to have a CSD account and all of that. But beyond all of this, there are other dynamics that come into play. If you want to do a repo, which bank do you want to do it? Do you have the risk assessment of the bank and all of that? And how are you going to negotiate your pricing? So these are more sort of technical, a bit technical sort of investments that mostly require some level of professionals to be able to give some guidance. But pretty much you need to have some CSD to be able to hold whatever security, if it is held in the CSD, to be able to have your collateral. And then once you place the money with the bank, they give you that collateral for the number of days or months that you are placing your fund at whatever agreed interest rates. Price of buy and price of sell is already predetermined. So there's nothing like interest rates affecting the price or whatever returns you are expecting at the end of the period. But then again, like I said, it takes some other form of assessments on the bank and other analysis that some level of professional work around it is quite necessary and useful. So that is just a bit on the repos. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Obed. So we'll have Sedem Sedem, and then from Sedem we move to Kwesikito. So Sedem, Kwesikito, then we'll wrap up with Nicholas, Joel, and then Prince. Then we'll be done. So Sedem, you can unmute and ask your question, please. From after Sedem, Kwesikito will ask his question. So Kwesi, you can also get ready. After Sedem, then you would also come in.
Okay, I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, please, we can.
Okay, so my question has got to do with the IC Liquidity Fund. I think there was a breakdown, but I didn't really get the full picture. And I just want to find out, I think he mentioned that there was 10% of it that goes into treasury bills. So I want to understand that is it a different fund from someone also buying treasury bills on the same market, or what are the is it probably a specific fund that that the manager manages and invests it in various markets, equities or something, and probably if you want to buy the treasury bills, that's a different percentage or something. And I think he mentioned that the IC liquidity fund is 19%. Is it per annum or what duration is that 19%?
Okay, good. So that's it for SEDEM. Chrissy, Kito, if you can also unmute and ask your question as well.
Yes, Kito. The name is Kito.
Kito.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry, Kito.
All right. So I want to find out, with regards to the repos, since repos is your main investment vehicle right now, I want to find out what is the greatest risk with regards to the repos and how you guys mitigating it. That's just a simple question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chris, for your question. So, Sedem, you had two questions. I'll speak to Sedem's questions, and then Obed will speak to Chris's questions. So, Sedem, to answer your question very simply, the IC Liquidity Fund is a fund, and so within the fund there are various asset classes that the fund invests in, and as Obed showed us in the presentation, mainly repos, there are treasury bills in there, and then also some fixed income instruments in there as well. However, when you decide to buy treasury bill as an individual, you can buy treasury bills different from the fund. So with the fund, what's basically happened is that various individuals, including yourself and other organizations, have invested into the fund, and then the fund, the portfolio manager, also decides that looking at how much assets the fund is holding, the assets are invested in the various asset classes based on the direction and the focus and the strategy which Obed took us to in the course of the presentation. So basically that's it. And then also the 19.9% that Obed mentioned is the year-to-date return for the fund. That's the year-to-date return for the fund as of today. It's not fixed and dependent on the markets. That return can drop slightly or go up as well. So it's dependent on market conditions as well and how the various asset classes that you are invested in are doing. So that's it for SEDEM. So for Kito, Obed, if you could kindly speak to Casey's question. He's asking what are the major risks for repos, since that looks like the strategy that we are moving with. We are heavily into repos. What are some of the risks and how have we positioned ourselves to mitigate the fund from such risk as well?
Okay, thank you very much. Very necessary question. Yes, so for the repos, I think earlier I mentioned that there are a number of risks when it comes to fixed income investments, like interest rate risk, issuer risk, credit risk, liquidity risk, and all of that. Well, so all of these risks are risks that are real, even with respect to repos. The interesting thing is this. Before I even come to that, so repos are more with a bank, but there's a collateral. So there's credit risk. So that is one risk, the risk of a bank going bad. So in this instance, like I did indicate, even when someone asked about the procedure around repos, I did indicate that repos, the quality of it, having the necessary assessments and making sure that whichever bank we are placing the funds with is it's a solid bank in the good books of the BOG in terms of their performance and all of that. And that is what actually drives the selection in terms of the banks that we do this repo with, to make sure that the credit risk is something that we are comfortable with, banks that are liquid, profitable, and all of that. We all agree to the fact that we have come from a situation where banks have gone bad before. But we also agree that in the midst of the banks going bad, there were some banks that stood tall. And those are the class of banks that have been our main focus when it comes to these repos. And we continue to run analysis to make sure that, yes, we are placing these repos with the right banks. Now, beyond this credit risk, now what is backing these repos? So I'll take it in two forms. So usually they'll give you something like maybe a treasury bill as a collateral. And beyond that, most of the repos we do are in the lines of the Bank of Ghana OMO bills. So we enter into the structure of some of these repos in such a way that the bank's placements or cash flow expectation from their placement with Bank of Ghana matches the maturity of these repos, so that even worst case, we know that they have funds with Bank of Ghana, and by the time it will come, the repos are due. And worst case, I mean, from those maturities, we can also comfortably have our funds. So there's a lot that we have actually tried to build around all of this to take off this risk. So I'm talking about the risk, but I'm also trying to address it with what measures we have put in place. So as I say it, you just take note of it. Then beyond this measure we have put in place, they give you a security, let's say treasury bill. So yes, you know, the treasury space is a bit not uncertain, but what this tells us is that if you hold something like a repo, that means that it must take the whole banking system collapsing, the whole economy collapsing, and everything coming to a standstill, to the extent that nobody can even reach take his money from the bank for us to say that, okay, yes, we've hit the limit, right? So clearly there are risks, but just as I've explained it, it comes with the measures, and it comes in different phases and different forms, like I've explained, just to build so much resilience, even in the structure of the repo. So yes, there are risks, like I've mentioned, and also the ways to address them is what I've attached to the explanations that I've given. Thank you.
Okay, good. Obed, thank you very much for that response. And so, because of time, I think that we've done 1 hour already. Because of time, what we are going to do is that the next part of the discussion is that we've had a lot of questions coming in about how to make payments, how do I navigate on the portal. If I go on the World portal, which for everyone on this call we have access to. How do I navigate? How do I make payments? When I make payments, around what time does the payment reflect? We've had that question coming in, a lot of it coming in prior to this call, and even on this call, we've seen some of these questions. And so what we're going to do, we are going to spend about 5-10 minutes to take us through. Abena with the Wealth Management team will take us through briefly how we are able to navigate our way on the World platform, and then also how to make payments on the platform as well. Because for most of us, we want to make payments and we want to understand what other payment options are available for you to use, for you to invest in the fund. And considering all that Obed is telling us in terms of the strategy, the direction, and also what the team is doing to mitigate risk, so that we can preserve our funds, ensure that our funds are safe, and then also we can have access to the money as and when we do need it. So Abena, at this point you can come in and then unmute yourself and then take us through briefly. When Abena is done, I think we have a few people whose hands are up. We have Nathaniel, we have Nicholas, we have Prince, we have Zik, and then we have Tabman, and then we have Lydia as well. So when Abena comes in and does that, we'll respond to these 7 questions, and then we'll wrap up. So Abena, you can take over from here now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Ralph. Thank you for joining us for today's call. So I'm going to share my screen real quickly. Ralph, please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen now, but not your slides.
Okay. A moment, please.
Sure. So Abna is trying to share her screen so that she'll take us through a brief presentation. Yes, Abna, your screen is up, so you can go.
All right, thank you very much, Ralph, once again. So I'll be taking you through how to navigate the world platform. And with our presentation, we would go through how to download a statement, how to create a sub portfolio for the ICE Liquidity Fund, how to transfer funds between the ICE Liquidity Fund portfolios, how to set up a direct debit mandate, and the various funding options we have available. So to begin, once you log into your dashboard, you should see the statement button next to the add funds button. Now, to download your statements, you just click on the statement button and your statement will be downloaded onto your desktop if you are using a laptop, or to your downloaded files if you are using a mobile phone. Now we'll move on to how to create a sub portfolio for your IC liquidity. Now, a sub portfolio can be like a goal you want to set for yourself. So, for instance, you want to buy a car and you want to invest towards that. So, you create a sub portfolio and name it car. In order to do that on your dashboard, if you're using a desktop, you should see the plus button on the right side of your screen, or if you're using a mobile phone, you scroll down, you should see the plus sign. Now, once you click on that, you'll be able to insert the name, or you can name your portfolio, um, include a target amount and a target date, and how much you want to deposit monthly. Once that is done, you click on the submit button, and then your new portfolio is created for you. Um, Now, once you have different, or it could be so many different IC liquidity portfolios, you can transfer funds between them. So, for instance, you have funds in your main IC liquidity and you want to move that to a portfolio you've called education. Now, to do that, you click on the transfer funds button. You will see that the IC liquidity fund portfolio, it's on the right hand side of your page. Once you click on that, you would be able to select the portfolio you wish to transfer to and then the amount. You click on submit and the transfer will be done instantly. Okay. Now we have the opportunity for our clients to set up a direct debit mandate. Now, a direct debit mandate is an instruction from you, the client, to your bank to authorize us to take payments from your bank account. And you can set a particular date or a frequency with which you want us to take money from your bank account, the amount you want us to deduct as well, and the end date when you want it to end. Now, to set up that, also on the ICE Liquidity Fund portfolio, you should see the Add Direct Debit button. It's a yellow button. Once you click on that, there will be a pop-up where you can select the funding channel. Now you can decide to set up a direct mandate using your bank account or a debit or credit card. Once that is selected, you input the debit amount, that is the amount you want us to deduct from your bank account, and the frequency, whether you want it monthly or quarterly. You would also be allowed to enter the start date, that is the date you want us to deduct from your bank account or your debit account every month. Once you complete or fill out the form, you click on submit. We will receive your instruction and then we will set up your mandate for you. Okay. Now, with regards to the funding options, we have mobile money option, we have the bank transfer or bank deposit, and then we also have Express Pay. So we are going to go through them one after the other and how you can fund using these various channels. Also on your dashboard, immediately you log in, you should see the Add Funds button. Once you click on that, you would be sent to a different page where you have to fill in your form. Now with the portfolio, you select the IC Liquidity Fund portfolio, and then you enter the funding amount. That is the amount you want to deposit into the account. The next step is to select the payment type. Now in this case, we are going to select MTN Mobile Money. Once that is selected, you notice your MTN Momo number, which was used to register, would pop up. Immediately after that, you click on submit. We will send you a prompt to approve the payment on your phone. So this is the process for the MTN Mobile Money. It's also very similar to that of Vodafone and Airtel Tigo. So with the same process, you select IC Liquidity Fund, you enter the funding amount. With the payment type, this time around, you select Airtel Tigo Cash or Vodafone Cash. There will be a pop-up where you can enter your Vodafone or Airtel Tigo number, choose the provider, and then click on confirm. Once that is done, we will send an OTP to your phone. You enter the OTP in the box and then you authorize. Immediately that is done, you receive a prompt on your phone to approve the transaction. Now we move to the MasterCard and Visa card. You can also do that on the online platform. Similarly, you select ICE Liquidity Fund, you enter your funding accounts, then you select MasterCard or Visa. The pop-up would, you should see a pop-up on your page which will allow you to enter your card details, and then you click on pay. Then you follow the prompts to complete the payment. Now the first three payments options I have mentioned can be done on the online platform. Now we move to Express Pay. Express Pay is an app that you can download on your phone from your App Store or Play Store. Once you are registered on the Express Pay app, you can log in and then you should see the view all link on your button on your screen. Sorry. So once you click on that, there will be various services you can select from, but this time around you look for ICE Liquidity Fund and then you click on that. The next page will allow you to enter the phone number you have on record with us. And then under description, you enter your wealth ID, which you can find at the right-hand corner, top corner of the page, or your name, your full name you have with us. And then you click on next. Now, after that is done, you'll be allowed to enter your payment method. So you can pay via mobile money as well with your card. And then the next page will allow you to enter the amount you want to deposit, and then you click on pay to approve the transaction. Now the last method we have is either a cash deposit, bank transfer, or a check deposit. Our custodian bank is Standard Chartered Bank, and you can visit any branch to make a cash deposit, or you can do a check deposit as well. You can also pass by our office to present a check, and they will deposit the check on your behalf. The receipt will be sent to you via email. You can also select the bank transfer option, where you initiate a transfer from your bank to our collections account. Now we have our bank details on the right side of the page. You should also see it when you click on the Add Funds button. It's Standard Chartered Bank, and then we have our account number here for you. So to conclude, we have durations for each funding option. That is when your account is credited if you use the various mode of payments that I've mentioned earlier. For mobile money transfer, it is credited after 3 working days. We are working very hard to find an alternative where we can get mobile money transfers credited earlier. With card transfers, which is done on the platform, it is credited within 2 working days. And then the ExpressPay app is credited 2 working days as well. For bank transfers, once it is instant, you'll be credited the next business day. With regards to direct mandates, there's a 14-day processing time to initially set you up. And so please allow that time for us to do before we can start deducting from your bank account. I'd like to reiterate that we have no withdrawal fees. You can withdraw your funds anytime, and withdrawal is processed within 1 business day. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or you need assistance, you can contact us via our phone lines and our email address. Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you very much, Abna, for the presentation. And for those, and also it's worth noting that for mobile money payments, for those who have, who will be paying from their MTN mobile money, there's no transaction fee. So for MTN mobile money, the transaction fee is 0. And so where you use MTN and you have MTN mobile money, we encourage you to, as much as possible, try to use that channel as well. It doesn't come with any transaction fee. And then also, as an update for all of us, as well as IC within the IC Liquidity Fund community, and also within the IC group as well, for all our customers, we promised you an app. The app is, we are almost done with the app. The app is currently in staging. What it means is that it's been tested internally, and the expectation is that in the coming year, the app will be made live, so that for all of us within the IC community, those of us on IC Liquidity Fund, those of us who want to buy shares, you want to buy or trade your fixed income instruments and all of that, you are able to do that on the go with the IC app. So it allows you to be able to manage your wealth and everything else that has to do with your investments and your finances on the go on an app. And you're able to do much seamlessly, easily make transactions, do withdrawals, make deposits. All of that is going to happen for you on the app. And so that's it as an update and some exciting news for all of us to look forward to. So as I mentioned earlier, we'll get back to answering the questions. We are far behind time. We spent so much time, but for the fact that we have everybody on this call and we spend over an hour, it tells me that we are enjoying the conversation, and so you are willing to stay on for the conversation to go on. But we'll wrap up. So we have about 5-10 minutes to wrap up. We'll allow for the few questions, as I mentioned earlier. Then we will end the call. So we'll start with Nathan. Nathan, if you can hear me, kindly unmute and ask your question. Nathan, and then I think Nathan is off. So let's move to Nicholas. So Nicholas, we'll do Nicholas, we'll do Prince, and then we'll do Tabman, and then Walia, Lydia, AJ News, Danny, and then we'll end with the question and answer section. So Nicholas. Nicholas, if you can unmute and ask your question. Okay, Nicholas is not ready. So let's move to Prince. Prince, if you can unmute and ask your question. Prince, if you can unmute. Okay, so Prince is not ready. Let's move to Walia. Walia, if you can unmute and ask your question at this point. Walia is not ready. Okay, so you're saying that you're unable to unmute.
Hi, I think, yeah, there's an issue with unmuting.
Okay, Okay. So you can put your question in the chat section. For Prince, Walia, put your question in the chat section, and then I would read it out and then we'll comment. But whilst we are doing that, I think that I'll get Obed to give his.
Hello, please can you hear me?
Okay, so I can hear you now, Prince.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I would want to ask about the IC asset managers. So I want to know whether there are other funds that you manage, and then if not, are there any plans of setting up other funds that will look at, let's say, other investment vehicle? Because I mean, we understand the liquidity fund as an emergency fund where you need cash, just move on to that platform for your money. But then there's also the need for you to put some money aside for circuit or make some investment that can give you quite good return as compared to the liquidity fund. The liquidity fund, as I believe, is like a savings account, but it's way better than your savings account because of the higher return that you get. But also need some small exposure to the equities. And then the other investment vehicles, which I mean over the long period will be good. So I want to know whether there are plans of setting up other funds that will look at all these investment vehicles.
Okay, good. Prince, thank you very much for your question. As you actually said, today the IC Liquidity Fund is a fund that's available for, we have some other funds as well that are more institutional focused. However, on the retail side, we are also looking at other funds as well that will be made available to investors, because as you actually said, different people have different investment appetite and risk appetite, and so we are looking at other funds that would have specific needs for different groups of investors like yourself, as you've mentioned, and will have different forms of exposure. So that is something that we are also working on, and as and when those funds are ready, we'll make it available to everyone and all of our customers. However, you are also on the Trade Life platform. You are also allowed, and you have the opportunity to invest in equities, into fixed income instruments as well. And if you have the appetite and have the cash flow to do other, for example, invest in US treasuries as well, you can have a conversation with you, and then help you with that process to make that happen. And so, yes, that plans are underway, and you can always talk to us, and we can help you do that. So we'll move on to Nicholas. Nicholas, if you can ask your question as well, Nicholas. So Nicholas will ask Felix, Walia, and then I think that we'll wrap up. So Nicholas. Okay, I think Walia has asked the question in the chat section. So we'll move to Felix. Okay, Nicholas. So Nicholas, if you can speak, Nicholas, Felix. Hello, Nicholas. Okay, let me move to Felix. Felix, if you can unmute and speak to us or ask your question. Okay, Tabman, if you can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you so much. Once again, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And I'm sorry I joined the session late as a result of attending to an equally important session. I want to plead if we could get the slide for the presentations and the video as well, if it will be possible, so that we can also get the earlier session that have missed. My concern is with respect to the IC Life liquidity. When I go to my dashboard, I have an account for I have liquidity fund, but the live trade, rather when you go there, you see MTN, Talo, and they have some amount there. I don't know how educative I could be to know how to go into the live trade, which of the institution I can equally go into. If there could be some sort of education, I don't know whether that has been done already, so that we could be much educated on how to go about it. And that is my question. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Tabman. So what's going to happen is that the conversation we're having today would be shared with all of us. We'll share a link with everyone via email, which will give you access to the video that would let you have that you will follow to from whatever we started discussing from the beginning. It will also be available on our YouTube channel as well, on at IC Group Ghana. On YouTube, the video will also be uploaded as well, so you can follow too. What's going to happen is that we'll reach out to you. You can put your details in the comment section. We'll reach out to you and have a conversation with you on Trade Live. So we help you out on how to go about it and also how to use the Trade Live platform. So you can put your details on the chat section, and then we'll reach out to you and have a conversation with you on that as well. So last 3 questions, and then we'll wrap up. Isahaku Zablim. I think that your hand has been up for a while. So can you unmute and ask your question? From Isahaku, we'll go to Bright, and then from Bright, Patrick, and then I think I'll add AJ News has been up for a while now. So Isayaku, Bright, Patrick, and then AJ News. Then we'll wrap up. Isayaku, if you're hearing me, can you kindly unmute yourself and ask your question, please? Okay, let's move to Bright.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Bright.
Yeah, I was about to complete the process. I was asked to upload my identity card, the ECOWAS card. So when I uploaded, they will ask me to provide a copy, which I'm not understanding.
I don't get you. You are saying that you were asked to upload your
identification card.
Yes, on the platform.
Yes, please. And when I tried doing that, they asked me to upload a copy. So that one have been rejected, or the space is too much. So they asked me to provide a copy.
Okay, don't worry. What's going to happen is that provide your details. We'll get in touch with you. We'll get in touch with you and help you go through the process. It's a very simple.
All right. So on which line will I provide my details?
In the chat section. So in the chat section of this call. In the chat section of this call.
Is it my email with my how am I going
email?
to do that?
Your email and your telephone number. So
Hi, Ralph. Perhaps it would be better for clients who need one-on-one responses to contact client service. We have a WhatsApp number as well. I've put it in the chat again, but I can also say it on the call. It's 055 255 7789. Again, that is 055 255 7789. Our email address, as you probably already know, is clientservice@ic.africa. That's one word, client service @ic.africa. So please, if you have specific issues you want us to reach out to you on, you can send your contacts that way, and then we will get in touch as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dora. So last question will be from AJ News.
My question is, we were talking about the treasury bill. If someone wants to purchase some, do you have any branch that the person can go there to have one-on-one with the person? Or it's only on phone? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so if you want to come to any of our office, we are located at Northridge, around Alisa Hotel. You can come to our office. You can have a conversation with you as well. If you want to have a physical interaction with us before you do so, you can do everything online on our platform. So you go on a platform where you set your account set up fully. As Dora mentioned, trades are done on a weekly basis, also every week, and there's an opportunity for you to buy treasuries if you wish to do so. So you can come in meet with us, or we can have an online a virtual conversation with you, and then everything can be done virtually without you having to come into our office to do so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So Felix, you can unmute and ask your question, then we'll wrap up. I think we'll do Patrick and then we'll wrap up. So Felix. Felix. And so and also for those of you asking, we have a WhatsApp, we have an ICLF community on WhatsApp. We have a customer on WhatsApp as well. So what we'll do is that we would share the link we'll share the link in the chat section as well, so that for those of us who want to join the community can do so. But we share the WhatsApp community link in most of our communications that we send out to customers. And so the next time you see any IC email, you can look out for the link to join our community, and then you can also join. But we'll add the community link to this call as in the course of the presentation. Okay. So so Patrick, your question, and then we wrap up.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good afternoon. Mine is an observation. I do a lot of trade. I use the trade on trading platform, but I noticed that I compared some of the equities on the GSC compared to what we have on the trade, and it's like it's not up to date. Some of them were, so I don't know whether it has been updated. That's a notice that I have observed. It be addressed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrick, as well. Dora, we'll look at that and then also get back to you. Okay, good. So thank you very much for the conversation. I think at this point, what we'll do is that Obed will give us his closing remarks. We'll have closing remarks from Obed, Dora, and then we will wrap up. So Obed, if you can kindly come in and give us your closing remarks, and also as the experts, what would be your advice to all of us, people who are not too investment savvy, for those who are, and then for all of us who have some amount of money that we want to put aside, what you would want to tell us moving into the coming year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, hello, hi, Raphael. Sorry, Obed. Can you guys hear me? I have a question. My hand has been up for some time. I don't know if I was having some difficulty with the network. But
Okay,
can you
sorry.
hear me, please?
Yeah, we can hear you. So sorry. So please ask your question. So
okay, so I have two. One is a suggestion and the other is a question. So I remember I had quite suggested once that I know the liquidity fund. Okay, the initial conversations I had around the liquidity fund was that it was to enable for us to be able to easily move money into our trade account. That is, if we would want to buy shares. So it becomes more like an emergency funds that allows you to be able to then trade when you want to. So if you have some money, you keep it in liquidity. When you want to trade or you want to buy some shares, then you are able to easily move that into that account. And I had asked, or I had raised the concern that even though if that is the idea, the fluidity for me was really not there, because it's like anytime you would want to trade, you would have to do a withdrawal and then now deposit the funds into your trade account. But was it possible then to sort of integrate the two systems? Because it's like there are two separate systems on the platform. Was it possible to integrate so that you can easily move funds when you are doing a withdrawal? You can easily move funds and then move it straight into your trade account so that you can use that to buy the shares that you would want to buy. It's been a year or so now. I haven't had any feedback. I haven't seen anything being done around that. So as you intend to come out with a mobile app, please explore that option. If it's possible to add to your web platform as well, would be good. My second issue, or which is a question, is that from what I said, from inception to date, return of about 19. I feel the fund has not done too well. I know there have been issues with the economy and all of that, but I want to believe that the fund can actually do better. So I know Obed tried to explain when someone had asked in terms of what are we looking at doing to sort of show up the performance or the returns given next year as an election year and all of that. I did not really get I wasn't convinced, or I did not get any form of assurance from Obed's answers. So please let's look at it again. I think from inception, I invested from inception. So from inception, if I have done a meager 19%, really. I mean, initially when I had invested, I was very impressed. But from inception till date, 19%. No, it is not impressive. We need to find a way to improve the returns for investors. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Felix, for your suggestion and comment as well. But I think that the 90% that Obed mentioned is not the performance of the fund since inception. That is the year-to-date performance, not since inception. Please, do you get that difference?
Okay, so what's the inception year return? Since inception, what has been the return?
It's 39%, Felix.
I don't see that. Okay, so where can I find that, Yuri?
My name is Dora.
Dora.
And yes, and it is on every fact sheet that we send out every 2 weeks.
Okay, I'll look out for it. Maybe so. I'll look out for it.
Sure, Felix.
Thank
so
you.
I think that we send out the fact sheets every 2 weeks, as Dora mentioned, and so we would encourage you to look out for it. Look at the fact sheet as well. If you have any further questions after that, you can get in touch with us to any of our client services channels, and then we would address that for you as well. I think that also the suggestion around the fluidity in moving funds from the liquidity fund in and using that to trade and all of that, we will also look into that. And also that with the app coming on, the focus is to make transactions very easy, simple for our customers, and so your needs are of utmost concern and to us, and so we'll keep that in mind. So Obed, as we're doing, Obed would give his closing remarks, give us an advice for the coming year. Dora would also, after Obed, Dora give us some closing comments as well. Then we would wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much, Raphael. And I'm happy Felix came in quickly before having to actually put my final remarks across. And it's in a way ties into some of his concerns. And I will say that, like Dwight rightly indicated, when you look at our performance from inception, it's way higher than this. And those who have been in the fund really from inception, you realize that there have been instances where we have even outperformed what Treasury Bill is doing, which clearly indicates the level of expertise we are able to put into the management of these funds to way outperform markets and all of that. And then to also indicate that this is a time that we need to actually begin to embrace the concept of appreciating risk and reward, where certain times on certain times where the investing landscape is quite fragile, we actually appreciate risk management and the safety of our investments as against the appetite for really high yields. So this is a fund that has done it before in terms of outperforming what even market securities like Treasury bills and co were doing. But this is a time that having professionals manage your funds is very keen, who have much more deeper market insights information that will benefit you, that maybe until something goes wrong, you wouldn't really appreciate. So I'll say, yes, let's begin to embrace this. And I think eventually this is something that will begin to get investors to appreciate the risk side of things and how to actually begin to pivot from high focus on returns and embrace the culture of we moving our investments or driving our investments with risk alongside. So yes, I want to thank each one of us for being active on this call, for the questions, for the contributions and all of that. And once again, we'll do our best to make sure that in these uncertain times, we wouldn't let chasing of yields be the ultimate focus, but then putting in measures to make sure that when you go to sleep, you have a peace of mind because you know we are doing our best to do the right things to make sure that your monies are well protected and you are gaining sustainable returns on it as well. But then again, the assurance is that we've done it before, and once things get normalized, things get better. I'm sure you'll see what you saw before, where we're doing way higher than what you were seeing things like Treasury and Co do. So let's all be rest assured. Let's keep trusting, and hopefully, I'm sure we'll get into that space again. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Obed. Dora.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. First of all, I'd like to point out to everybody on the call that the link being shared by Melchizedek Bless is not IC. We don't know this gentleman or this lady, and therefore, if you join that link, it is not IC. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, I would like to reiterate the ethos of the fund. It is a cash fund. It's supposed to be an alternative to cash that you keep in your bank. At this time, some of us are using it for longer than cash purposes because of the environment. It's intended to be liquid. And we'll ensure that it continues to meet those requirements as Obed has said. It will not be the highest yielding thing on the market. That's not what it's here for. Just as your bank account will not be your long-term plan, and we can help you work on a long-term plan if you need. Similarly, if you read our prospectus, this fund is set up to be a good alternative to cash at bank. So for those of us that it works for, we will continue to work for you and to make it the best option that you have for this asset class. For those of you who need alternatives, we will continue to work for you to determine what is a good, safe alternative. As Obed said, at least from our perspective at IC, this is not the time to chase yields or chase high returns. It will either not be liquid or not be safe. And those are two things that we need the fund to be for us. And so we thank you so much for your perseverance with us throughout the fund's life so far since May or late April of 2022. And we look forward to 2024. And hopefully we'll do a lot better than we have in this tough year. So thank you, Ralph.
Thank you very much, Dora. And I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody who joined the call. We are excited to have you as customers and also as members of the ICLF community. As we've said, you can reach out to us even after this call. You can continue to engage with us on all our social media platforms and all our customer service channels. If you have any questions, feel free to send us an email, give us a call, and we have our team of experts ready available to assist you and also to help you answer all your questions. Our focus at the end of the day is to help you to fulfill your financial aspirations. And so feel free to talk to us at any point in time, and we are here for you. Thank you very much. The video recording of this call will be made available to us via email. We'll send a link to everybody via email, and also we're available on our YouTube channel as well. You can go in there and have access to it. Thank you very much for your time. We'll end the call here. We're excited to have you, and we're looking forward to speaking with you again next quarter when we have our next investor call. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day, and enjoy the holidays as well. Goodbye.
Going global, making her mark on the world stage. I see Africa's innovation, showing excellence in all she does. I see Africa getting wealthy. I see Africa. I see Africa. I see an Africa that's focused on